So when I first heard about meditation, it was 2012 or 2013. And I came across this 21-day meditation by Deepak Chopra and Oprah. And so I was like, what's this? Started listening. It's a guided meditation. Started listening to it, and it's amazing. And I got hooked. I did the 21 days, and I'm like, what is this magic power, this superpower? Right? I started looking it up, and I came across this interview where Howard Stern was interviewing Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes.
And they start talking about this thing called TM, Transcendental Meditation.
I watched that too, yeah.
And he goes, if you remember, he goes, do you meditate? And Jerry's like, yeah, I'm a TMer. And Howard's like, oh, I'm a TMer as well. Yeah. Transcendental meditation. And so he goes, Howard, if I would have known about transcendental meditation back when I was doing Jerry Seinfeld, the TV show, Jerry Seinfeld TV show would still be airing today. Wow. And I was like, wow, that is a bold statement, because it's one of the highest revenue producing shows of all time. He said he used to wake up, he would do the acting with his co-stars, and then at the end of the acting day, he would have to go write the script with Larry David. So he had a whole nother work day ahead of him. And because transcendental meditation is 20 minutes twice a day, he said I would have done it right in the morning and then right after the acting, so he could have the energy to go with Larry David. He said it would still be airing today if I would have known about that practice. I immediately signed up the next day for training, because I thought that was such a bold statement. I need to get hooked on this, and I have. So
it's incredible
7 years now.
It's incredible. Do you practice it just about every day?
Yes, 20 minutes twice a day, unguided. And for those that are listening, it's tm.org. I don't work for them. I don't get a compensation for saying this, but it's a one-time fee. You get trained in it, and then you're a TMer for life. Yeah. And it's pretty interesting how it basically takes the brain waves below your level of consciousness that you reside in when you're sleeping. Yeah. So they found that the alpha waves on normal meditation only reach about 20 to 30%. With transcendental meditation, when you're hooked up to an EEG, it reaches 90%. So this isn't just some airy-fairy woo-woo stuff. They've actually tracked it I actually use the Muse now. It's an EEG that hooks up to your brain to track these brain waves to see. I love the scientific approach. It's my pre-med background coming in there.
I think what you just said there was what I was trying to find in my wording when I said that like TM is like the most connected I've ever felt to myself, whereas other types of meditation, whether it's guided or calming music, I think it's the brain waves there that it's just not getting to that same level, whereas with TM it's like a totally different level.
And you can do it anywhere, anytime, with anyone or alone. I've done it in the slums of India to the slums of Nigeria to in my own place. It's
I've done
really
it on
helpful.
an airplane. It's pretty wild. There was so much else you mentioned here. The circadian rhythm. There's also a really good book. It's called The Power of When. I can't remember the author of that, but
When.
I'll have it.
That's Dr. Daniel Pink. So he's the one.
Is that the same book?
Yeah, it's just called When by Dr. Daniel Pink. It's on my bookcase, but it's.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. I'll put the link into it. I think
he's the one that developed the chronotype test, and I share it on my website. You could find out more about it, because the URL is kind of funky. It's got a bunch of like letters and numbers in it. But there is where I provide the assessment, so you could find out what is your chronotype. So throughout the day, when should I be performing each of these types of tasks?
Yep. Yeah, it's super cool stuff. So it must be the same book that I'm thinking of. I've recently read it, and it's pretty neat. Like you can go through like it's not like a personality test, but you can go through like, I perform this task better at this time. And like you start kind of piecing together what kind of chromosome type you are, and then it gives recommendations on
chronotype. It's one of the first things I do with my clients to analyze when they perform best, and then we try to introduce their day in a way that allows them to be in an environment that's conducive to them thriving, not just surviving each day, but how do we get the absolute best out of Dan every single day?
Exactly. It's great. It's great stuff. And then with the morning routine, I loved everything you talked about there. So breathing, I love that you asked about like what's the first thing we need when we wake up. Breathing is something I've gotten into quite a bit, really in the last, I would say 6 months to a year. Have you heard of the Wim
I
Hof
saw
Method?
you looked into the Wim Hof method. I saw some of your posts and stuff about it. It's
That has
cool.
been probably the biggest transformational thing I've done in the last year, for so many reasons. But I think the big piece there is breathing, and it's something I like to do in the morning. I don't necessarily do it. Maybe I need to switch it up to do it first thing in the morning, rather than
For
going out
that
for.
coffee. I saw you
Yeah.
do it after your coffee. I'm like, Dan, we
I
need to talk about this.
I will say, in my defense, you were talking about water and coffee. I do have a glass of water before I have the coffee. So at
That's
least
good.
that's the very first act I do. Actually, my very first act I do is make my bed. And then I
That's a
get
good one.
a glass of water. And making the bed it's so basic, it's so simple, but at least it sets you up for completing your very first task for the day. And in my opinion, it makes you, it allows you to get into that mindset of being task oriented. So
There's actually science behind that. And I
yeah,
also make my bed every day too. I didn't share that because I assume that actually
assume,
most people do that now, but I
but
shouldn't assume
they
that.
don't. You'd be surprised how many people
Yeah,
don't.
you're right.
And
And there's science behind it though, because they show that just completing that task increases dopamine and serotonin,
oh
which
wow,
gets you happier. And so you're actually more motivated to keep the momentum cycle
yep,
going. So you're more interested in completing another task.
yep,
It's the same reason that cleaning your house works, because you're getting things done. Your progress equals happiness. And happiness is that influx of dopamine and serotonin, which leads to you having the motivation and desire to want to do other tasks. So you're
yes,
getting more done. You're being more productive.
yes, I love that. So then with water, I make sure I drink water, and then I go outside and I go for a walk, and that's when I have my cup of coffee.
Mm.
And maybe I need to wait a little bit longer. I think that's actually something in the book, when is they recommend having coffee, if you do drink any caffeine, wait a couple hours after waking up and not be your first thing, because like you mentioned,
100%.
it dehydrates you, right? It's
And your cells are already denatured. We're trying to bring water and oxygen so they fill back up to their normal size,
yep,
so their cellular membranes expand so they can move quicker through the bloodstream. So much happens when your cells everything is made of your cells, your hair, your brain, your skin tissue, your blood tissue, everything. So we want to make sure that we're working on the cellular level. In the book, When, he talks about something, your fans will love this, your audience will love this. So this is called a nappuccino, Dr. Daniel Pink's research. So they found that coffee hits the bloodstream at about 20 to 25 minutes. So you want to, if you're going to meditate, you drink your coffee right before your meditation or right before your nap. So he calls it a nappuccino. I created the medicino, which is you do it right before your 20-minute meditation. So by the time you're done your meditation, the caffeine has hit your bloodstream, so you get an influx of stimulation. So he talks about it with naps. Now they found that, and if your audience likes this, we'll talk about naps for a second. There is a way to perform a nap properly based on his research. And they found that anything over 20 minutes had a detrimental effect on your energy and your brain.
wow.
Anything below 10 minutes had no statistical significant effect. So the ideal time is between 10 and 20 minutes. Anything more than that was a detrimental effect. So the question is, that was how long?
Yep.
Well, when should you do it? And they found that 7 hours after you woke up is the ideal time to have a nap, where it doesn't affect your sleep for the next day.